Hello, hello, hello. Happy Thursday, everyone. Happy Thursday. So I'm gonna let people kind of come in from the waiting room as they're here. And welcome, welcome. Happy Thursday. Thank you for being here. Hello, hello, hello. Excited to have you. And I'll give people a few seconds. And welcome to our third edition of the Mindset Makers series. And we're really excited for this session today. And we have another one of our all-star Nifty alum who's going to speak and share some wisdom today. So really excited. So thank you. I see people popping in now. Perfect. So thank you everyone for being here. In the past few sessions, if you've been here, my incredible colleague, Vinay Brown, one of our Nifty alum, has been leading these sessions. But today I get the honor and privilege of leading this session today. And Chris is such an awesome entrepreneur, young person. He's been a part of Nifty's Founders Forum, Nifty's Biz Camp, so many different Nifty opportunities. And he's going to share a lot about his entrepreneurship journey and really focus it on iterative design and what he's done in terms of research, prototyping, and all these steps he kind of took as a budding entrepreneur to get to where he is today. So, of course, teachers, I want to remind you too, like we're going to have time for some Q&A. So any questions that you have, go ahead, you can put that in the chat. Or you can put those in chat. You can send those to me, and I'll have some time towards the last 20 minutes to kind of answer those questions. And we have some questions already prepared to kind of get it started. But I'm going to let Chris kick it off by I'm going to be quiet so you can hear a little bit about his entrepreneurship journey and everything he's done so far in his work, so you can get a feel for who he is. And I'll let him share his screen, and then we'll get to it. That sound good, Chris?
Sounds great, man. Thank you so much, Anthony. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. I know you could be anywhere. You could be doing anything else in the world right now, but you're in a Mindset Maker series with Nifty. And honestly, this is close to my heart, and I'm sure a lot of you here. We are all entrepreneurs in our own way. You know what I mean? And we all didn't know we were going to be one. It's not something you just kind of sign up to be honest with you. It's something you really grow into. Okay. That's what I've learned. I think, my major in college was business administration, but in reality, all the courses I took in that were not, they don't really prepare you for what you really need, right? I'm so glad that we do these. So a little bit about me, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't really know I was going to be a business owner kind of guy. I like to just clock in and clock out and go home kind of guy. You know what I mean? I like to work hard, play hard, but of course, ultimately follow my passion. And at first, I didn't really know I had a passion. One of my first things was really just creating relationships with people. I was always in sales kind of jobs, trying to figure out what I wanted to do in my life, from being a bartender, from being like a sales rep in a call center, and a lot of outbound, a lot of socializing kind of jobs. I really didn't like desk jobs. It wasn't my deal. I like to be out in the field, moving and get with energy. So I long story short, my dream job was to be a pilot. While I was in school to be a pilot, something along the way told me no. They said, Chris, this is not meant for you. I had to swallow that pride, tell my parents that all the money I spent for my one degree I was going for is not going to work out for me. And that's never a fun feeling, folks. It really is not. Your parents saw you grinding for 4 or 5 years for a career, and at the end, everyone's waiting for the job offer, and you're just like pivoting. So I pivoted in my life, right? And that was one of the first things that I think being an entrepreneur is very important, the mindset, right? You put all your eggs in this basket, and you get to your career, and they tell you no, right? I could have gone down a downward spiral from there, right? But I kept following my dreams, folks. I really did. I kept believing in what I learned. I didn't give up on what I learned and what I went to school for. And my biggest skill that I walked away from learning that career was I'm able to break down things that are very complex for people in a very simple manner. Okay, flight plans, a pilot's trying to get over here, he needs help. How do we do it? Right? I was able to break down real complex things for people. And I didn't know how I could apply that in life later on. I didn't know where that was going to fit in. That's when all the jobs and all the experiences in my 20s came along. I know I look young. I am 34 years old. I became an entrepreneur at about 24 years old. I didn't know, but that's exactly when it really started. I started selling products to people and building the first time in my life what I call like your energy, right? Like what you call your operation. Someone meets you, you build a relationship with them, and you nurture that relationship. And how well you nurture it is how well the results are you're going to get from it. So I was selling, it's insane. I was literally selling lubrication products. I didn't know what they were doing. I was pretty much selling like the Mercedes-Benz version of WD-40. If anyone knows what that is, right? The most expensive WD-40 you could ever buy. I didn't know anything about it. They gave me an iPad. I go to places and present off an iPad. It was crazy. But I learned how to work with people. I learned how to cold call. I learned how to barge into a place, set a meeting with someone, get through the gatekeeper, and really stay focused, right? Like my mission was to get this product in the right hands. And to do that, you have to be really focused. So little by little, my journey led me all the way to Houston, Texas. Okay. I live here now. I was born and raised in Miami. And when I got here, someone taught me about health insurance. And I started falling in love with breaking down something super complicated like health insurance to people. And that's what I do now. Now, at first, I was a regular health insurance agent in a call center, learning the game and kind of just going through high volume so I could really master the industry. And then from there, I learned it and I went on my own. And this is where my journey really started. I went into something called a 1099 environment. Okay. In sales, a lot of times you could either get paid hourly or something, right? But I went for the first time in my life, I went 1099. And for those that don't know what that means, nice and simple. If you do not work, you do not eat. Okay. If you don't, it's results driven, it's performance based. And that's where I first learned what I was in, when I was an entrepreneur. If I didn't do something to better me, my family, my clients, or anything, nothing changed. It was literally like the first time where I had to really put my big boy pants on, learn things that I didn't know, admit things that I'm not good at, set it to the side, work on them, maybe outsource them because you only got to, I learned that I focused only what I was really good at. And what I wasn't really good at, I learned to outsource or delegate or kind of make sure that I wasn't the one doing it because it really wasn't helpful for me to do it. I wasn't good at it. So ultimately, I learned a lot about myself in this process, right? I was working for a company for 4 years, and I decided to go 1099. And I got a very people in the Nifty community. I got this like reputation from Arnie. He started calling me Mr. Burn the Boats, Mr. Burn the Ships, right? And for those that don't know what burn the ships is, burn the ships, folks, is a mindset. It comes from an old story, right? I'm going to keep it very simple. It's a mindset where, if we were all it's a mindset of these warriors that were on a ship and they attacked this island. And the captain of the ship, as all the soldiers were getting off the ship, exactly what you imagined, the captain burned the boats as the soldiers were attacking this island. So all soldiers were while they were moving forward, they were looking back and saying, hey, our plan B is gone. We don't have the boats. How do we get home? So all the warriors turn around to the captain. Captain, how do we get out of here? What boats are we leaving on? We're leaving on their boats, right? We're leaving on the boats after we complete the mission. So this mindset hack, I think I'll leave you with this, folks, here today. It is the number one thing that turned me from a regular operator to a top producer. It was the ability to lock in and go all in on something. When I went and I quit my job, I had a set salary. I worked 40 hours a week. Whether I was good or bad, I made the same amount of money, right? So then I went 1099 and I started doing things on my own and I went all in. I wasn't doing it with half efforts. Everything was all in, right? The boats were burned. I didn't have a job to go back to. Nothing was set. So it was either work or don't work. And this burn the ships idea it's incredible. There's a lot of athletes that have practiced this and they're in championship games, in World Series games, like in top moments in people's career and their life. They apply these mind hacks. This mind hack, ladies and gentlemen, finally got me what I was looking for because I learned through the grit, the grind, the commitment, the believing in yourself, the duty, the burden, the commitment that you mentally going all in on something. You don't find excuses for things, right? When people say no, it's a yes. Like you just drive on. So that plummeted me through a lot of challenges that if I would have not had that mindset, I would have doubted myself. I would have questioned myself, and I would have gone down what I call negative town easily. So it's really hard to do this, but if you could apply and learn more about this burn the ships concept, there's a lot of cool like videos and stories people share. And in my example, I left a W-2 job and I went 1099 fully. And now at the end of it, 7 years later, folks, I have an insurance agency that I hire and train 1099 agents to teach other people to do what I do, to help other people get insurance. My wife left her job full time to join me. She was on a salary job. She's a 1099er like me now, and it's just we fully believe in what we do. Big believer that of confidence is the memory of success. So if you don't feel confident in something, you just don't have enough success stories yet. And once you start getting some success stories, little small wins, I promise it will come with it. I was not confident about it. In my industry, I talk to a lot of older people than me. So I always feel like, oh, we're sitting down with a 65 plus year old person that's in retirement, worked super hard all their life, and now they're talking to a 34-year-old kid about retirement options. I feel like I have to earn it, right? Like I'm like, why should this person take my opinion, right? And once I start talking, they feel the confidence, they feel the energy, they feel that I care about them, and then that's when business and everything really starts, right? The exchange of value really starts from there. So, really, um, mindset, all about questions. Questions you ask yourself. The number one question that changed me was I stopped asking myself, why me? Right? Like, why is this happening to me? I never had anything go my way, right? I had my dream job that told me no. First generation Cuban American, my parents were on me my whole life trying to make sure I became something, had all that pressure my whole life. And as anyone, in a position like that, you know how that pressure is. It's no joke. You trying to make yourself to your family, make yourself something. When we came from nothing, right? We really didn't. We were the first ones going to college in my family. And, one thing I did was I joined the military too. I hope that got me on the right track. I did 6 years as an Army infantry guy. Hopefully that got me in the right mindset. I learned a lot of mindset from there as well. And then ultimately, I I I live a life now where I wake up and I love what I do. It's not work to me anymore. I would have never thought it would have gotten to this point, but it's through the constant small wins they get you there. The mindset hacks. I stopped asking myself why me, and I ask myself, what is this trying to teach me?
Chris,
Anytime one of you go through a hard time, that's what you're going to ask yourself. What is this trying to teach me when you're going through a hard time?
and Chris, I love that. And I know you have a few slides to share with the
Mhm.
group as well, because I think what you're talking about today is what we keep hearing, right? It's so much, and nifty teachers, you see this in this entrepreneurship journey, like it's not this linear journey, right? Like
Yeah.
constantly for our students, right? As they think about their futures and we talk about how do we empower students to own their
Hmm.
futures, that journey goes all kind of ways, but you're right. It's those different experiences that kind of shape who we are. And
Yeah.
I love it because I wrote down like you went from like plans to be a pilot to now like selling health insurance. All
Yeah.
that
Crazy.
journey is like totally different, right?
Totally different.
But I love you also said, and Denise put in one of the other quotes, I love that too, about the whole idea of Mr. Burn the Ships and that story. But also I love what you talked about in terms of locking in. And I think that goes into like a mindset. And I love the Golden State Warriors. I am a Stephen Curry fan all the way. And Curry always says, okay, Dub Nation, let's lock in. And it's just
Okay.
always, okay, let's get our mindset fixed on this. Let's go at it, this goal in the midst of this journey. And we have to kind of do that and remind ourselves because that I'm not an entrepreneur, but I know from talking to so many of you how challenging that can be, and you have to find those ways to kind of like keep you going. So I know you want to share a few slides too, kind of
Yeah.
like about your business. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll talk a little bit more about kind of like the
Okay.
research and everything you've done.
Yeah. I kind of got excited and I think I should have had the slides up as I was talking. Some of them went along with my story, but I apologize, folks. I'm one of those in the moment folks, and but understanding the importance of mindset, right? That was what I was talking about earlier. And Anthony, thank you so much, man. It really does. Um, I've seen how much I've grown from when I first started Nifty to now, and I didn't realize it.
And
Um,
tell everybody, Chris, when your first Nifty program was and how old you were then. I'm gonna let you.
yeah, yeah. I was in Miami, Florida. All right, this is 2008. I graduated from John A. Ferguson High School,
Yeah.
second graduating class there, and Nifty came in. Started doing these summer camp boot camps. So imagine I voluntarily signed up for summer camp, and it was a nifty boot camp. That's how much I really wanted to win it, guys.
What
Like,
made you sign up? Chris, I'm curious. What made you say, you know what, I'm gonna try this out?
well, like I said, I knew I was going for a business administration degree. You're a senior. You're starting to see what school you're gonna go to, and you're starting to do all this research. And this came up, man. This came up as like hey, you have an entrepreneur mindset. We teach you how to make a business plan and present it. And I remember in the boot camp, that's kind of what we did, man. It felt like Shark Tank. We were given business courses for like the first couple of weeks, and they were pretty intense. I had never seen something like that before, and the numbers didn't get me excited, but the journey did, right? The ability to like see opportunity, and create the life you want to live, Um, I saw that in business, and although I was very young, a lot of stuff probably went over my head, when I first got exposed to that. I learned how to put a PowerPoint together, present it to a board. I mean, I had a lot of cool exposure that I thought it gave me, and I definitely believe it set me apart from other people.
So,
It was
Chris, as you
very
say
good.
that, nifty teachers, I want to remind you as a former educator myself, I taught for 10 years, not nifty, but English. So I will remind you of the skills that Chris is talking about, right? He didn't remember every single thing, right? Every task, every
Hmm.
project or everything he worked on in Nifty or all the different particular lessons, but he learned them in the journey. So I'm going to remind you, teachers, I know like in the midst of the school year, you're ready for Thanksgiving, ready for some time. Remind yourself too, like students are taking that in, and this is all shaping them on that journey. You're a part of it
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
And Chris is a great example of him taking us back in 2008, so many
Hmm.
years ago. All those things still stay with him in that journey, helping him kind of own his future. As cheesy as it sounds, it is
Yeah.
the truth, and that's so cool.
It's not cheesy, man. Honestly, it's cheesy not to talk about it. It's cheesy not to talk about a growth. I think people avoid it so much, and they think it's such an awkward topic. I would have never known what a mental coach, like a life coach would have been if you would have given to me early. I would have never appreciated it. But I think the exposure that we do to the younger generation, for all the coaches out there, people that are leading young people, you don't know how many lives you're touching. You don't know who you're touching. So, even your 80% might be 500% for someone in taking that information. Someone like me, right? Like a young kid, I got inspired by these the course or the boot camp, and I would have never thought it would have led to my journey now. So
Yeah.
it's hard. It's really hard um work work with young folks with great minds. You just don't know what's going to come out of it. Uh, but
What, can you talk about a few more of your slides?
Yeah, yeah. So back to the importance of mindset. You know, the entrepreneur mindset is extremely different than just what we think of as mindset, right? Back that question I stated earlier, why is this happening to me? Versus what is this trying to teach me? That's a perfect example of an entrepreneur mindset question. There's people with fixed mindsets and there's people with like growth mindsets. Okay. And I really think it's important when you're an entrepreneur, honestly, in any industry, like you would never know it all, right? So you always got to stay humble. I promise, like no matter how good you think you are at something, there's someone that's 20 times better than you, and as sad as that is, it's gonna happen like that for the rest of your life. So just making someone feel good about learning something and giving them some positive reinforcement that they're doing the right thing, so that they can be motivated to take the next step, right? And I think in business, I'll tell you, man, like everyone says you got to do it this way, you got to do it that way, but the most successful people are the ones that create their own way. So
Mhm.
getting people started on an idea, getting people supporting their positive ideas or their creations in whatever direction they might be, you don't know what you're igniting, right? You don't know what you're starting in them. So really, the entrepreneur mindset, I thought of three things, man, of how it has really of what I noticed that I really had to get better at and when I
Mhm.
first started being an entrepreneur because I thought these things were I don't want to say corny, but I wasn't mature enough to understand these things when I first started. Okay, embracing change. Okay, I lived in Miami, Florida, my whole life, and they threw me in Houston, Texas, with no family, no friends, and just had to kind of learn and grow to adapt to this culture and lifestyle over here. So I embraced it. Right, I embraced the change. I took my skills and talents and uniqueness from where I came from, and I brought it to a new area. And I was not shy to let people know who I was, what my message was, and I really embraced my change. I love,
That
yeah,
reminds me of, we talk about in Nifty so much about being comfortable with risk. That's what you were doing. Like,
yeah,
instead of that change, that entrepreneur mindset, that domain, you were like, you know what, I'm gonna be comfortable. I'm gonna take a chance. I'm gonna move to this different city.
yeah.
That's a great example of being comfortable with risk, which we try to encourage our Nifty students all the time to think about. I love that one.
Yeah, man, you got to embrace the change, because the change, what it does is that it changes your environment, and once you change your environment, you're exposed to something bigger.
Mhm.
And what blew me up mentally was I didn't know there was something better and bigger out there,
Yeah.
right? And if it wasn't for change, I would have never even exposed to that. I would have never seen that. So as a coach, anyone helping young kids or help young entrepreneurs, you got to, that's what I'm saying. You gotta support and support people being uncomfortable, right? You gotta make sure that they understand it's normal to be uncomfortable at times, and it's all
Mhm.
about how you handle it, right? Like almost like stress management or uncomfortable management, however you want to kind of look at it. So embracing change, learning from failures for sure. I used to want to win. I mean, when you want to win, what you don't realize is you got to fail, right? And one thing I learned from this, the hardest lesson I learned on the learning from failure was I just I was I started as a 1099er my first 3 years, and I was working, but I wasn't growing. Like I wasn't growing where I want how I wanted to grow. I wasn't getting like 50% increases each year. Like I really wanted massive growth, but I wasn't listening to where I was where I wasn't winning at. I wanted to just sell policies to everybody, but I didn't realize I wasn't learning from where I wasn't selling policies, why I wasn't selling policies, what didn't go well, right? So yeah, learning from the failures, that's where you learn how to get better, 120%. And having no shame in saying, look, I'm wrong, right?
Yeah.
No shame in that. I think that makes you so much of a bigger person. I owe you one. I'm sorry, Anthony. Every time someone schools me on anything, hey man, I owe you one. Thank you. That's a great one. I felt uncomfortable about not knowing that, and because of you, I am now better. So I owe you one, right? Like just change the mindset on how you learn things from people that make you feel uncomfortable will change everything. And of
And
course, yeah,
sometimes adults, we know that some adults, right? Not every,
yeah.
so we're all on our own journey of learning, right? So adults know that, and I think so. What do you feel like for this as a young person? Like if you were to talk to that student who was in that biz camp back in 2008 and even before that, what do you think a teacher could have said to you to help you really understand and learn from your failure and be okay with it?
Um, that's a great question. I want to say I always felt like life was always like telling me, who do you think you are, man? Like, what are you doing, right? Like anything bold I wanted to do, there was always like some negative, like some authoritative figure saying, hey, you can't do that, or hey, why are you trying to do that, or hey, get back in line, or whatever. I think if I had heard anything for an entrepreneur, they need to hear that it's going to be hard, right? They need to hear that when they believe in something, they know it's something valuable, it's going to do good, and when they take that something to the marketplace out there, that they know they need to know that they're gonna get a lot of friction, and the more negativity, the more they need to push. Because my first business that I thought I started was like a private bartending gig, and I realized really quickly, um, I realized really quickly that lesson. Um, ultimately, people, you think your objective is one thing, but you don't realize that you're at a bigger play here. Um, and it's going to be hard. It's not going to go perfect, right? It's not going to go how you expect it, but the fact that you don't give up is the success factor. Like the fact that you just keep getting up every day, right? Falling 8 times, but falling 7 times or standing up 7 times. Like you gotta keep getting up, and no matter how hard you get hit, you just gotta keep going for it. Because if you truly believe in it and it is good for people, when you take that to the marketplace, they will tell you how much it's worth,
Yeah.
right?
I love that. I love that. And then that last one, in this theme, that building relationships, you talk about this. I kept hearing that common theme for you, like throughout your life, like building relationships. And you and I were talking about that a little bit beforehand, of how building relationships with people. And how is that, like that effective networking? How has that been so important for you? And I think that's a skill that a lot of our nifty teachers, they're always trying to teach their young people when they bring volunteers in the classroom, when they take them on field trips, college trips, the
Yeah.
nifty events, other events. How do you feel like that's really been effective for you or helpful?
It's been amazing because one thing, like I said earlier, like I notice what I'm not good at, right? And when I see someone that's really good at something that I'm not, I see that as an opportunity for a relationship. Like, hey, Anthony, I love the way you do this, man. I think if we combined how you did this with the way we do this over here, we got something going on, right? I think we could do great things. So I love. I've when you become an entrepreneur and you're all in, that's all you're doing. You're building relationships to build opportunities, or you're searching for opportunities through building relationships. Either way, they go hand in hand, right? Um, Effective relationships will take you a long way. I was a little fish in a pond when I first moved here to Houston, and I met an insurance company that was a new company here in Houston, and I blew them up. I really did. And it was all through building relationships, finding people that needed them, aligning the right people to the right product and stuff like that. And I created what we call a niche, right? A niche is a special area that everything just clicks, right? Because everyone is the demand is meeting the demand is meeting the output, right? Like it's everyone's syncing, they're getting what they need. Um, so ultimately building relationships, you got to ask yourself, who could get me there? Who are my who's, right? I'm at position A. I want to go to position B. That space in between is really, who do I need? Who do I know? Who can connect me there? And that is why relationships are important throughout your entire life.
And I love that because I literally was with a group of students today in Chicago, downtown at the city office, and we were literally talking about the power and importance of networking and who in a room.
Yeah.
It's okay to not be good at that, but that person could have experience and share with you and all of that. So I
Hmm.
love that you were saying that. I think for young people, that's so important. Even as adults, we all know a lot of us go to networking events and how great that is. So, Chris, I have a few other questions I want to ask you, and I'm going to take over and share my screen.
Okay.
And I have a few questions. I think these will also be so helpful for us as we're kind of talking about your journey, right? In the midst of everything you've done in terms of your business and how you kind of got to where it is, and even the first business, right? So how is it we think about how long has like ongoing research about the market for your industry, like health insurance, how does that influence your business model?
Great question here. We all love to think we're working. We're all very busy, right? But I learned that the better your research is, the smarter you're working, not the harder you're working, right?
Mm.
Because you could, if it's a numbers game with sales at the end of the day. So let's just say I called 50 random people right now, right? Yeah, it might work. There's a percentage that something might close and something might turn out of that. But when you convert 50 random numbers to something like 50 people that were actually targeted towards what you're doing, because you did some research, you realize that the 50 people you need to call, they all like something that you have in common. So I think doing market research, it's going to save you money, headaches, time. Because if not, you're just doing a lot of great efforts in the wrong direction. And
Mm.
there's nothing wrong with great efforts. It's just working smarter is having those great efforts lined up with your market. Um, my market's simple, just to give you guys an idea how to think a little outside the box. I don't want to make you think that this is like Albert Einstein kind of data. This is very simple, okay? My market is people that are over the age of 65 or within 6 months of turning 65, okay? So 6 months before 64 and anyone 65 plus, okay? Very simple market, right? Retired people, right? And then that you could just start there. Then you ask yourself, what do these kind of people do for fun? What are these people searching? What are these people doing? And you put yourself in their shoes, and now you have a way better understanding. Have a way better understanding how to approach these people. Give you an idea. If I was trying to reach a 65-year-old, I'm not gonna host a kickball league event, right? These people are retired. Physically, it's not the right deal. But if I did research about them, if I held a bingo event, I probably get a lot of people there, right? Market research, you find out what the people you're looking for, what they like, what they do, what they breathe, everything. And you just start having fun with it, you know? Maybe go out and make a trip, go feel the air, go be in the environment, go be in their shoes for a little bit, do an interview. That's a great one, some market research, interviewing a little a group. There's so many ways to make that fun. And this is such this question really it really goes really deep, man. I mean, You're either going to waste a lot of money or you're going to make a lot of money, and it all depends on how good your research is.
And I love that you said the two things, like either like being strategic about events and you're knowing that particular target market you're looking for to
Mhm.
understand them and host. But also I love the interviews, right? We talk about that. Denise and I have been in some trainings as well. We talk to students about design
Yeah.
thinking, interviews with potential people. What does this look like? What is this? How is this? You know, like that's how many times do businesses always talk to their customers? That goes a long way. And that
Yeah.
also it creates a sense of, I feel like when a community, like people feel a
Oh
part of
yeah.
that brand and what you're doing in that work, whatever. And I think that goes a long way because then they'll spread the word too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. Another question. So what do you think is one first step a budding entrepreneur? Our young people, right? And our teachers are teaching them, our young people. What is one first step a budding entrepreneur should take to effectively explore how to validate their business opportunity?
I don't think people get enough positive reinforcement in life, right? Like when they do something right. Of course, when we do something wrong, like we all know, right? But when someone's onto something, I don't think there's enough people around like saying, "Hey, man, keep doing that." You know what I mean? Or hey, so when you, if I were asked, like, okay, what would be a good step if I see a budding entrepreneur and I see someone that he has a lot of ideas, he or she has a lot of ideas, right? How do I validate what they're doing? Like, how do I kind of reinforce their thinking to kind of help them continue thinking that way? And I think positive reinforcement just comes a long way. Keeping people in a creative mindset during this phase. Um, we all go through cycles in life. Life is all full of cycles, cycles of work, cycles of health, cycles of school, cycles of anything of life. And really, well, as a person is learning things and validating opportunities, looking for opportunities, thinking of opportunities, they're going through cycles of change, right? They're getting uncomfortable to see an opportunity here. So I really believe the positive reinforcement, it just gives, that's what I needed the most. Everyone was so negative on, you're never gonna do it, it's impossible, dude. Like there's been so many people that failed, and then the entrepreneur really just gets motivated by the odds of things, right? Like the whole famous Colonel Sanders, it took him 1,000 times to get the first recipe approved for KFC, right? I would have given up. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I would have submitted something 1,000 times, but that just goes to show you, like, who was validating that guy, right? On the 50th time he got denied, right? Who was, if I was like his coach or his business coach during that time of life, and just comparing it to being a buddy coach for a future entrepreneur like a nifty volunteer, the positive reinforcement will make something something,
I
and
have
I
a
think
follow-up
that's
to
what it
that.
is.
For you, for your business and what you're doing now in those beginning stages, when did that, first of all, my first question, when did your current business, when did that start?
The current business started in 2019.
So in 2019, how did you know, like, yes, this is a valid business opportunity? I know that what was that thing that helped you know that first kind of like aha moment for you?
Hmm. The people, like, you take
Mm-hmm.
something good to the marketplace and they are going to tell you how valuable that is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the definition of what I do is very boring. I'm a health insurance agent. I read these policies, yada, 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 right? But in reality, what you really do is you help someone understand something complicated. And if you make that a fun, pleasant experience for them, and it's all about how you make someone feel at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, doesn't
Yeah,
matter what business you're in, it's all about how you make someone feel. So,
yes.
yeah, we got to tell them bad news sometimes. Yeah, we have some good news sometimes, but it's all about how you make them feel. So I was this young, very young person serving 65 plus people. And it wasn't until my first validator was I met someone who was paying $1,200 a month for a one prescription.
Mm-hmm.
And through research, I'm not even saying, when they taught me how to do health insurance, yes, there's like places and links and portals that you go through, but I was Googling stuff on the side to find an answer for this lady. She tells me, Chris, I can't pay this anymore. It's $1,200 a month. So I went out of the normal. I was like, okay, we have all these resources, cool, everyone's clicking over there, but I'm gonna just go down this dark hole of searching over here and see what I can find. And
Yeah.
I found some pharmaceutical assistance program that costs $0 to be a part of. This lady pays $0 to this day for that medication. I met her 4 years ago.
Wow.
And that moment that when after I left that household and I felt that feeling, okay, this lady was paying $1,200 a month, which is a mortgage, by the way, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and now she's not because of someone like me. And I got a commission for it. It made me feel great, and I got paid for it. So I was like, this is something. This is
Mhm.
not a work. This is helping people get what they need done, right? At the end of the day, I switched this lady's insurance company. I told her to use a different pharmacy, a couple little things that was all essentially free online to learn. And I
Mhm.
just, with the right mindset, went in there and provided it in a way to her that was valuable. And that's how I knew that this is something good for people. Um, I sold a lot of different things in my life: gym memberships, cell phones, like I said, the lubricants, this all sorts of crazy stuff. And it wasn't until I sold something that really made a difference. It validated me internally, and that's where I started just bleeding the validation to everybody. I'm like, look, if I could do this for you, how many other people could I do this for? You know, if it works and for this, how many other people could it work for?
And I think that for our young people, right, whether they're at a pitch competition in nifty New York or in Florida
Yeah,
or in Texas or in
mm,
Chicago, and they can first explain that business idea they have and the opportunity, but then when they maybe make their first prototype or their first product and someone has it or whatever the services is, or it's a nonprofit and people start to experience it, I think that too is that
yeah,
keep them going. Like, yes, like, and that's
yeah.
it's so easy to forget in the midst of that journey.
I
Um,
call it tasting the ice cream. You gotta let them taste the
yeah,
ice
I
cream.
like that. Tasting the ice cream. Yes, that's a
If they
great.
like the flavors, you know you got something good going. You know?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great way to think about it. And then for our teachers, remember if you have any questions that you want me to ask, you can put those in the chat, and I'll make sure I grab them. Or the Q&A part, you can use what says Q&A and then get that there. So I have another question for you. You talked a little bit about kind of like how you were first, you kind of knew, yes, this business opportunity, what I'm doing here with health insurance and how I'm, changing my trajectory, how I was kind of working. Tell us a little bit about the iterative design process as it relates to your business. What kind of like prototyping, testing, analyzing,
Uh,
what was the refinement process like for you?
so in the marketing side, there's a lot of this. There's a lot of testing, a lot of analyzing. If I make an ad for anything, I make two ads, change
Mhm.
colors, pictures, stupid details that make a difference. And that's the whole idea why you test A and B testing, and you just test them, see what works better. Um, the whole algorithm or whatever they like to tell people about online marketing and all that. Really, it's there's no recipe for attention. It works or it doesn't, right? There's no wrong or right color. There's a bunch of tips and tricks for sure, but really you got to test because back to the working smarter and a harder thing. You don't want to be wasting money, right? Marketing dollars and effort, they really do build a toll, and it hurts to spend money and not generate business from it. There's no worse feeling than that because now you spent your profits to gain more profits and you didn't get more profits. How do you bounce back from that without a tough mindset? I don't know, right? That's the burn the ships. Your passion has to be higher than your commitment. Okay,
Mm.
that's a
Can
hundred
you
percent.
explain that? Your passion has to be higher than your commitment. Talk
Yeah.
about
Kind of like how people say, motivation gets you going, but discipline and consistency is really how you win. Kind of the same here too, man. Like I think if I wasn't so passionate about helping people save money on health insurance, I wouldn't go as hard as I do, right? And what I mean by that is I don't I don't I don't I don't cut corners on anything. Like if I'm gonna do something, if I'm gonna make a promotion, we're gonna test it. We're gonna analyze what works best, and then we're gonna do it right. If we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it right on anything. I don't I You don't have to be a perfectionist, but you do anything you put out to the marketplace. You need to learn and do good research, test it, analyze what's gonna work for you. One thing that really worked for me. This is gonna sound crazy. The number one thing that worked for me, go from, I want to say, mediocre to great, right? So number one thing that worked for me was thinking outside the box. I put a table with a tablecloth and some freebies, pens and stuff outside of a health clinic one day, and little by little, it generated a lot of leads for me, connected a relationship with the clinic administrator. She loved what we were doing, helping her patients choose the right plan to come to her clinic. And little by little, it was like the testing and analyzing of that got better. Give you a quick small story on how that succeeded. I first had it started off with just a table. One day I started bringing coffee from the box of Joe's, right, from Dunkin' Donuts. That coffee box little slowly turned into a K-cup machine. Little by little, started upgrading the attraction factor of the table. Had a spinner wheel. Little by little, just started upgrading the approachability of my table.
Mm.
And I was testing things. The coffee when I was first buying it from the box of Joe that it would come with and those box from Starbucks, it only serves 20 cups, and by 11 o'clock it was already cold. So little by little, I just started getting better. That's why I upgraded to a K cup machine. Every single cup was hot, ready to go. It gave me 25 seconds to make the coffee, and that was a 25-second pitch. So little by little, testing what worked, what didn't, I got better. And it was little things of what colors of what to have on the table, what items to have on the table to make me approachable. So this is very important, man.
And
This,
can I say, I also think this is important because sometimes we have so many of our Nifty students who, and it's great to create products for people, right? But you're
mm,
selling a service, and that is still, and sometimes we forget about the whole that a service is a product in itself, and that is an important business.
yeah,
And I think that you're saying you had to think about how do you deliver the pitch or service to people in a different way,
wait,
and grab people's attention and think a little thoughtfully because
yeah,
selling service is just as important as someone buying hair care products or
yeah,
beauty products
yeah,
or what underwear that someone's
yeah.
selling, whatever it may be. I think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, when you're doing service, you're the product,
Yeah.
right? That's what you guys need to realize. You're the product. So if you don't like the wrapping of your product, the coloring of your product, that's something you got to address, right? How you make someone feel at the end of the day is the most important thing, right?
So I think
Um,
for nifty teachers thinking about that as you're kind of working with students day in and day in and day out in the classroom, helping them think about like, and we've talked about this so much about how branding yourself is important. So if they're like, oh, I want to sell this service, they're not just selling the service they do, but they're selling themselves in a way, right? And they have to be thinking about that brand and how they present it. Because we all know once we love that service we give for somebody, oh, we're like, come back. We want to do this. We're going to keep going. Because
yeah,
people also, they remember how you made them feel after that.
yes, yeah. I feel like it's when you do a commodity product like what I do, anyone could sell health insurance. Just takes a license. And honestly, someone told me hard one day. They go, Chris, if I could buy this from anyone else, I could call Humana directly. There's a bunch of reps outside. Why you?
That's a good question.
What the day I got approached that question is when I really started trying to think like an entrepreneur. I really started forcing my brain to be like, why me? Like, what is different about me for real that I gotta put out there?
Yeah.
Um, and really, that's what we're really investing on these kids are. We're investing in them. Ultimately, we're all different, personality styles, all that. I get it. But when we don't get told enough when we're doing something right, I swear it's a very negative world nowadays, especially in business. Um, we there's no fails. It's just efforts. You know what I mean? Like there's no L's. There's just lessons. There's no. We're always winning. I'm either winning or I'm learning. You get me? Like, and that's how you got to make people feel.
Ooh, I
Anyone of my
like that. That's
yeah,
a
like
that's a magnet on my fridge. I'm either winning
really?
or I'm
Or I'm
learning.
learning.
Love that.
100%. Like everyone on my team, that's how it is. If you didn't get the sale today, Anthony, we're gonna hear that call together. We're gonna break it down. We're gonna see what could have done better. Like we're gonna test this. We're gonna see what words you could have done better. What tonality of your voice. We're gonna break it down. We're gonna learn together what's right, what didn't work. And I'm not mad that you didn't get the results you wanted, because now I see that you're improving to get the results you wanted, right? You're working towards getting the results you wanted. We all know what's wrong, man, right? Everyone knows that the day they learn something new, you immediately know the bad stuff. But like I said, there's not enough positive reinforcement in the
Yeah.
game.
So I have one more question for you on the
Yeah.
prototyping. So I remember you talking about your first business. So remind us quickly what that was.
Yeah.
And was there any prototyping that happened there and like you failed and then you went,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, great question. Great question. So I had bartended for PF Chang's for 6 years of my life. And I got really good at bartending. I had a good time making drinks, brought good energy. I loved it. Had a good time. And I was like, all right, let me do this on the side. I can easily do parties, weddings, different things. Had some cousins and friends and family that had some parties. I was the party bartender, charged my first couple rates, very unorganized, but it all worked out in the beginning a little bit, right? And then I started noticing people were booking me because they wanted me to bartend it. I noticed I was the one giving the experience they wanted. And when I was growing and scaling this thing, having multiple parties to go to, I had to hire and train bartenders. And when I put those bartenders out there, the clients weren't as happy and satisfied with the service. And I started
Mm-hmm.
really learning, okay, what is the service? Flipping drinks behind the bar? Anyone could do it? Or is it being there, creating the experience and flipping drinks at the bar?
Yeah.
And I noticed people they wanted me to do the event. Chris, we don't want to do it if it ain't you. Hey, sorry, I don't have the time. As an entrepreneur, you gotta learn how to scale and grow your time, delegate what you
Can't
can't
do it
do.
all.
You can't isn't that is for sure. And I did try to do it all and I learned you can't during this process. So you were getting booked too much, you can't stretch yourself out that way, and you can't set the wrong expectations for people, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I learned it there, man. Like that bartending thing was awesome, but I was as I was trying to grow and scale it. It wasn't that the other people weren't working great like me. It was what I was presenting to people was my experience, not the experience of the business. The first time I learned that, I had partners involved too. So I learned in that lesson that you got to work with people that are like-minded with you, have good partners, all
Mhm.
that. And that's why it was a learning lesson for sure. Um, it was a great business. We made a boatload of money on it, right? But ultimately, it wasn't scalable the way I wanted it to be scalable.
Yeah.
Because I was presenting the wrong service to people, really.
And it's so interesting because, as you said, you've taken that lesson and now you incorporate it in what you're doing now, right?
Yeah,
You right people
yeah,
do things right. I
yeah,
love that part of the journey. So teachers, as you continue to work with your nifty young people, and they, get to that stage when they are prototyping, whether it be services or products, helping them. And I almost wonder, it makes me think, like even myself, like we all as adults should say, what do I know now, or what have I learned through like 3 mistakes in my life? Like mistakes are like prototyping, right? Because prototyping is like you may fail, you get up, as you said, Chris. But I think that's so great. I think for our young people, it's so important to know like you
yeah.
learn from these 2 mistakes or 2 parts of the journey in the entrepreneurship journey.
Yeah. Yeah, there's two sides to it. There's the smart side and there's still the work ethic side that you gotta bring to it.
Hmm.
I think I had the work ethic side first and the smart side because I was just working and working and I wasn't getting the results I wanted. And it's crazy because once you work with better people, you expose yourself with the environment, the people that you want to be like, it's small tweaks. It really is positive reinforcement. Chris, instead of doing that, do it like this. Hey, if that didn't work, it's the way they said it, the tonality, the verbiage, the words is a very powerful thing. As an entrepreneur, building teams, working with teams, developing teams, the words you choose that come out of your mouth are very important. Because they affect people, right? Obviously, but they really do deeper than you think. They
And I
really
think
do.
the thing else I'm hearing you say without you saying the words, when we think about analyzing, you also have taken time to be self-aware and reflect. So I think that's so important for entrepreneurs. Sometimes teachers, we tell you got to keep going, you got to hustle, and that's part of it. But then you got to stop for a second and pause to analyze,
Yeah,
like
100%.
use that self-awareness to think a little thoughtfully about, hey, how do I need to change it? Because if you keep doing what you've always been doing, you're going to get the same results, right? We know that quote. So,
Mhm.
Chris, I have a question for you here. What are two ways that Nifty teachers can continue to guide their students? You said for positive reinforcement. I
Yeah.
love that because as they continue on their current Nifty journey.
Wow. Wow. That's a big question. That's a re So two ways a teacher. So I've worked really closely with Nifty volunteers before, helping them create businesses and giving them my input on stuff. I noticed when I was helping someone create their business and pitch it in a competition, my one thing that really helped this person was sharing your input with them, like sharing your experience. I learned so much from everyone at Nifty, whether it was the guide, the coach, Kenny, the administrator, the speakers, the guest speakers, the volunteers coming in all the time. They all brought something to the table. To be honest with you, like whether you guys may not know, there's a gentleman named Ray, the volunteer Ray, incredible person. I learned so much from him. And honestly, being exposed, keep exposing these students to better experiences, bigger experiences. So exposure, I'll say that's one of my favorite ways to get someone to a higher frequency is expose them to something they need to be exposed to.
So,
You know,
to rephrase that one, now let's say the second one. So Nifty teachers thinking about what are different ways you can have different opportunities for your young people, right? Your students knowing them, how they can have exposure to different events. You can
yeah.
always do Nifty because we have different things and volunteers,
Oh yeah.
but maybe other great things, right? With the
Yeah.
local chamber of commerce and other things
Yeah.
that could really be helpful for younger people. So exposure. Then what we say that with the other second one would be, Chris.
All right. So exposure is great. I gave you the other one earlier, the positive reinforcement. We'll use that as the second. So after someone is exposed to something, um, speaking of being accountable, analyzing, using data, working smarter, not harder, um, reverse engineering. Okay. I like to start off, you ask somebody, what do you want to do? And you work backwards to see the actions that they're going to need to get there. It's a way to make a quick goal, a smart goal with someone, an attainable goal, something measurable, right? Now it's not like, hey, how's it going? Like, hey, how's your plan going? Where are you on your journey? Right? Rather than, hey, how have things been? Right? Like now you have something to almost be even accountable for. Like, hey, man, how's your plan of action going? How's your game plan going? You know, I remember with my student, the volunteer that I helped him pitch his business for the competition. He ended up winning, and I remember his business was real. It wasn't just a competition. And this gentleman, he lives in Hollywood, Florida, and he's still doing it, and it's incredible. And I gave him actionable steps that he could take. You know, and I didn't have to, but it was more like I gave him a mini game plan, right? Like you don't just keep it, don't just encourage them while you're with them. Challenge them to keep going,
Yeah.
right? Challenge them to hey man, why don't you try to see if you can get a volunteer spot at this place? Why don't you try to do that? Hey, this might be a good idea. Why don't, you know, my mentor did that to me in Nifty, and it worked. It did. He taught me how to hire low cost employees. He taught me how to work with volunteers. He taught me how to work with interns, right? And it was just by giving me actionable steps that after our meeting and session, I was able to do on my own. Not every kid's gonna do it, but the ones that are really trying to do big things are gonna do it. And I was one of those kids, and it turned into a bigger thing for sure. So, Elliot Schwartz was this gentleman's name.
Yeah, Elliot, he's
Elliot
on the
Schwartz,
West
man.
Coast. Yeah,
Yeah,
I have
he
worked
was
with him.
awesome. He came in and I had a delegation issue. I didn't know how to hire and bring someone. I didn't know how to ask for help. And Elliot taught me some cool ways to get some help without having to pay someone a salary and all this crazy stuff, you know, a good way to make it happen. So yeah, man, like exposure for sure, and give people some sort of accountability action steps, you know, let them have fun with it. He
And
challenged me, and it challenged me forever, you know.
that's I love him when a volunteer, and I Elliot
Yeah,
will
man.
still stick to. And I think what you said, it reminds me. You said reverse engineering for teachers. It reminds me of what we've learned, right, in education, backwards planning. The same thing we do when we do
Yeah.
lesson planning. We start with the final, whatever the assessment is, and we work backwards. How the kid's going to get there. I think that same thing falls with this. You're bringing back teacher memory. So in the little time we have left, Chris, I have like two lightning round questions.
Cool. Let's do them.
So my first one is you meet your 16-year-old self. You're allowed to say 3 words.
Wow.
Who's that?
Woo. Only three, huh?
Yeah.
Be the best. That's
Ooh,
it. That's what my father told me, and I promise in everything I do, I make sure that step is better than anyone else doing that step.
my
So
dad
that
says
be
the
the best
same thing.
at
Chris, he
anything you
says,
do, man.
he says it doesn't matter if you are a janitor, which is just as important as any other job anywhere, or you're the
100%.
CEO. Be the
Be the
best.
best. Yeah. Too
Yeah.
much mediocre, too much basic out there. You know what I mean? Just it's I'm tired of seeing basic. Be
Yeah.
the best.
I always say, and I used to say this as a teacher, and I say this in Nifty, like we all are worthy to be great in our own way. Greatness looks different for all of us. We
Yeah.
find that path in our way, and
Yeah.
that's how we own our futures. My
Yeah.
other last one for you, finish this sentence. Nifty is ...
Eye opening.
Hmm.
Eye opening. Um, Small story on why I think it's eye opening. I did the whole Nifty thing back in 2008. I started the business in 2019, but I did a founders forum in 2008, 17, 18,
Can you
19.
explain what that is for the teachers, just in case we're
Yeah,
finding?
yeah. Founders Forum is where an alumni, a Nifty alumni can come in and they have these programs where they call them founders. There's volunteer students that they acquire from different places all over the states, and they put them in these was it 6 week long classes, 3 month long courses where you teach someone how to think like an entrepreneur. They structure out what a business is from the legal standpoint, from the pitching it to an investor standpoint, and honestly, I had just started my business and it came at the perfect time of my life because I started thinking like this again, thinking about these details and actually applying them in the business. I had gone to college so long ago that when you actually started my business later, you forget all these things, right? So it came at a perfect time in my life. Founders Forum I highly recommend it for anyone that's considering to contribute to Nifty in any way. You don't know where to start. That's where I started, did it for a couple rounds, and now, I love it. I try to be a guest speaker anytime I can.
And I love that because I'll be talking to you in February to see if you'll be a virtual judge and for our Nifty educator. So Founders Forum is a program for just any student, whether they're alum in a summer program in one of your classes. Once they complete that class, no matter if they went to New York or competition or they are a Nifty alum, we consider them that. And with that, they have the opportunity, if they register on our alumni registration, then they have the opportunity to join something called the Founders Forum. And that is our virtual incubator program that helps the students or a Nifty alum, because it's not all students, they can be ages between 18 to 35. And then they can we have various volunteers coach them in this program so they can take their business to the next level, thinking of 3 different milestones. And then they compete at the end of that program for up to $10,000 in seed money for their business. So it's again, we're like, we haven't forgot about you, Nifty students. This is a
Yeah.
great mistake that connected. And Chris is one of those. He won 2 years ago, right, Chris? When
2 years, man. Yeah. Not to promote it like it was. I didn't even think it was like a paid thing or anything. I just did it because I really wanted the knowledge. I got exposed to some really good speakers. A lot of good corporations come in and they give you some tips. They give you free resources, softwares and things that you're gonna need as a business. That is really expensive up front. So it was a blessing to kind of get your feet in the water with some of that stuff. Um, like I said, until you're exposed to it, you don't know how much you need it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So it was a blessing.
that's so true.
Founders Forum.
Chris, you share so much wisdom today about your journey, everything you've done, your passion. Thank you so much for sharing wisdom with us today and all our fellow educators at Nifty. And we recorded this, so we'll be sharing out to even more of the teachers so they can hear some of your nuggets today and really think about how they can continue to ignite the entrepreneurial mindset in their young people so our Nifty students continue to own their futures like you have. Thank you for being an example for us of why this mission is so important, how we got to keep going in the midst of it all. And you are a
Oh
great
yeah.
example of that. Thank you for everything today, Chris. Teachers, have a great night. Get some rest. It's almost Friday. Happy Friday Happy Friday Eve. Have a great last day of the week. And then it's almost Thanksgiving. So thank you, everybody, for being here and have a great night. I'm going to stop us here.